everyone, it's me, Toy, and I'm back again. I'm going to start the first book review that I wanted to discuss with you guys today. First book I'm going to talk about is actually a series. It's a series called the Black Magician Trilogy by one of my favorite authors who is called Trudy Carnarvon. So the covers look kind of like that. You've got 3 books in the series. The first is the Magician's Guild, the second is the Novice, and the third is the High Lord. Now, I absolutely love these books. I've read them, I kid you not, I've read them, the whole series, at least 7 times. And it used to be my go-to book in between books. So like if there was like a book and I've read and it's quite heavy, or I can't quite decide the next book I want to get into, then I would always just revert back to the Magician's Guild, the Black Magician Trilogy, and read it. My favorite one of all of them is the first one, which is the Magician's Guild. Now, I'm going to read you a little bit about the plot, and then I'm going to give you a description about the characters and what I think of them and just why I love these books so much. So here we go. You have to forgive me. I'm going to be reading from Wikipedia, our trusted friend, where all knowledge is infinite. So, also, please guys, forgive me because I'm absolutely minging. I've been to the gym and I did 2 hours of yoga and I smell like must. Gross. Anyway, into the plot we go. So I'm just going to read a bit about the plot. You're going to have to forgive me. I don't know how you pronounce these names. I'm just going to pronounce them the way I've always pronounced them in my head. But here we go. Each winter in Imarden, the capital city of Keralia, the streets are purged of the dwells. The city's poor underclass by magicians who drive away the inhabitants of the city's slums. Although young gang members gather to throw rocks at them, the magicians are protected by a magical shield until Sani. A young dwell hurls a rock through their barrier and injures their magician, Lord Fergan. Fearing a rogue magician, the guild begins searching for Sani. Lords Danil and Rothen lead the search into the slums, worried that Sani's increasingly uncontrolled magic will harm her and those around her. But Sani both distrusts the guild and their apparent lack of compassion for the poor dwells and fears the reprisal for her accidental injury of Lord Fergan. She flees with her friend Ciri, eventually seeking the aid of the shady thieves who see the value of having their own magician and take her under their care. With Ciri, she sneaks into the Magician's Guild in an attempt to gain knowledge of how to control her magic and observes a black-robed magician covered in blood performing a strange rite on a servant. However, her attempt to learn more is unsuccessful and Sani continues to lose control of her powers, setting fire to her surroundings repeatedly before Lord Rothen at last locates her. At the Magician's Guild, Lord Rothen and the sinister Fergan fight for Sani's mentorship, though she is uninterested in training and only wants to return home to her friends and family. Lord Fergan attempts to sway Sani to betray the guild and thus prove that the dwells are not fit to enter the guild, and goes so far as to kidnap and threaten Ciri. But Fergan's plans are discovered and he's made to stand trial. Now I'm going to stop it there. You know, there's a little bit more on the plot, but I'm just going to stop it there. This series is just like the most imaginative explanation of the conflict between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. So basically the poor underclass, working class people, and the rich, high and mighty, successful people. And they basically live in this world, in this world or country called Keralia, and in this city called Imarden, where the very, very rich are kind of protected by the magicians, and then the poor are just kind of left on the outskirts of the city and allowed to just fend for themselves. And then you have levels of poor as well. You have the merchants, and then you have like the real kind of underclass, and then you have like the thieves that kind of live in the underground sewage system, and so on and so forth. It is just absolutely brilliant. I love the fact that the main protagonist is female, and I like the fact that over the 3 books, the Magician's Guild, the Novice, and the High Lord, you basically follow her growth and her progression and her maturity into adulthood, and you learn of her compassion for people, for human beings in general, the fact that she wants to use her magic for good and to help the dwellers that have kind of been overlooked by the magicians and the king of Karelia and the bourgeois of Karelia, so to speak. The character development is amazing. You get to experience sort of like a intricate love triangle between Sunny and her friend and another character. And then you don't know who to root for. It's just such a beautifully, beautifully well told story of humanity, love, compassion. I love the way magic is used in it. Because the magicians also are like the academics of the city. Excuse me, the phone's ringing. It never rings, but there it is. Anyway, we'll just wait for that to stop. Okay, so, you know, the magicians are the academics of the city. They basically hold all the knowledge, and if you want to learn anything about magic, you have to kind of learn it through them. And so that's why it's all the more important that Sunny does well at the guild, so that it kind of opens the University of Magic to all the citizens of Karelia, not just the upper class that are deemed to have magical powers. And it kind of just makes the magicians have a broader, more open mind. There's a little bit of political intrigue in there in terms of how can Karelia strengthen its magical knowledge to kind of defend itself against its enemies. It's a beautifully told, well told story of love, of you get transported into Imarden, and like how the city is built, what the underground tunnels of the city is like, what the Magician's Guild is like, what the posh bit of Imarden is like. There is nothing, I couldn't put it down, and it's something to be said for this book because I've read it 7 times and counting. Just love it. I would highly recommend. It's one of my favorite series. It was one of the first series I read in the fantasy world, and if you're into female protagonists, strong female leads, if you like fantasy, if you like the world of magic, these are the books for you. And if also you can commit to 3 books, 3 novels in a series, you would absolutely love it. And I actually also like the fact that this series only has 3 books. I mean, there's some series that just have it's just infinite. It just goes on and on and on, and you could just tell that they've just latched onto a money-making scheme. Trudy Carnarvon, I think she's Australian. She's either from Australia or New Zealand. Forgive me, you people from Australia and New Zealand. No shade, but she's one from them sides. And she just tells the story really well. You feel transported into the world. You can't quite tell where it is. The clothes that they wear are kind of standard, typical, like if you're into the fantasy realm, kind of olden days sounding clothes, robes and things like that, tunics and things like that. But it's just, you will love it. I hope that I'm giving you a little bit or enough to kind of whet your appetite, to make you want to read the book or to encourage you to read the books. And even as a standalone, if you can't commit to the entire series, The Magician's Guild, the first book in the series, is actually my favorite, and you would absolutely love it. I read it, the first time I read it, I think I read it in 3 days, and then every other time since, I've just kind of read it in like a day or an afternoon or something like that, because I just literally cannot put it down and love it so much. And I can get through the entire series in about a week. So if you're looking for a good fantasy, female-led, not too crazy, easy, gentle ease into this kind of genre, the Black Magician trilogy is for you. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the characters. I really fell in love with Lord Ravan and Lord Daniel. I like the way that they treated the relationships between the characters, who you ended up rooting for, who you ended up disliking, who you disliked in the beginning, and then ended up really liking at the end of the series. It's just brilliantly done. So let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy it. And if you've read anything similar, let me know as well. And I like to kind of read books in the similar vein. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, bye.